Hello everyone, my name is Raul Esparza. I'm the teacher author of the Photoshop for Teen lessons that you have on the screen here. And I wanted to answer some common questions that I get in my email or sometimes even in the FAQs, the questions here on Teachers Pay Teachers. The first question I wanted to answer was, where do I get the sequence of the lessons? So it looks like I have the video there and I have, a lot of previews, and some people don't actually make it to click on the view preview button that's here on the screen. But if you want to see all the lessons and the suggested sequence, then you can click on view preview. And you're going to open a Microsoft Word file. Let me put it on the screen here. And this was updated on December 17th because every time I add a resource or sometimes I remove resources, I update this document. And what you should notice here is the first ones are 6 files that are not Adobe Photoshop, but rather they're how to use a California Career Zone, how to use the ONET Online, how to use an Occupational Outlook Handbook, how to use Career Builder, and those are all good resources to teach kids how to look for careers, what's involved with the careers, what kind of education they need, information like that, and then how to go about looking for a job. So I would always have my students go on Career Builder and look for a graphic designer and how much money a graphic designer would make. Or then they would notice that, well, there's a lot of freelancing or contract work. Once you scroll down a little bit here, then you see the actual Photoshop lessons begin. And I have them numbered just so you see that there's actually 26 Adobe Photoshop lessons through here. And this is kind of the sequence that I follow or I would follow. Of course, if you're just using this to supplement your current curriculum, then you could use these in any order you wish. One is not dependent on the other. But what I do try to do is put these in the order that if you want to start from scratch, which is the simple collage, how do you copy and paste a picture from the internet into Photoshop, and how do you move the layers around, then you need to go through that lesson before you get, for example, how to make an iPod ad, where now you're actually selecting out of images, changing colors and things like that. And that would be a really good lesson to complete before they get into how to use layer masks in lesson 8. So this is the sequence that I would recommend and that I followed when I was doing my class in Photoshop at the high school level. Sometimes for the adults, because of the time involved, I wouldn't do as many lessons because the classes for adults were maybe 36 hours, 27 hours, 36 hours or so for a semester. Whereas with the kids, I would have about 6 hours a week. That was a lot more time I needed to do. And if you notice also, these are the Photoshop lessons here in the first column. There's some assessment suggestions, which are different files you're going to find once you download the folders. You can use a reflection over and over and over, which is something that I would do. I would always have my students reflect on the lesson they just completed, what was difficult for them, if they need extra help. Sometimes I would find somebody to go help them. And then you're going to see that there's some online quizzes. In the third column, I have different activity ideas. So for example, it says all toolbox updated. That's actually a file you're going to find in the folder once you download. And then there's word searches with the word scrambles. There's like 4 or 5 of those interspersed. There's a little mini lesson on how to isolate an elephant from its background. There's a file on layer blend modes, what they mean, how many there are, and all that other good stuff you need to teach with Photoshop. There's a file on ideas to create like an extra credit prom flyer. I would do that as extra credit, but it's actually a Word file. You can change it to whatever you would like. Same thing with the ticket invitation down here. That is also a Word file. I would use it as extra credit, but you can change it to whatever you would like there. And then there's a Christmas card Photoshop file you can also use. in order to give some extra credit or have students do a little bit of extra work once they're done with all the main lessons. So if you have any questions on the lessons, how they work, then please let me know. I actually did create these lessons so my students would have the least amount of questions, and they started off as 10-12 steps, and some of them have morphed into 20 steps. So you might have a file that's only 6 pages because students seem to do well with the 6 pages, and then you see some lessons that are 20 pages because that's the amount of detail I had to add in order to have them work on their own individually and not have to ask me, how to do these steps multiple times. So thank you for watching this. Again, this is the suggested sequence of Photoshop for Teens lessons, and you can find that as a preview file before you even purchase anything to see if these are lessons that you might want to do with your classroom. Thank you.